Robert Jenrick has finally broken his silence on this huge Afghan data leak scandal. Reform have been absolutely going for him, and the man, Robert Jenrick, who is usually so active on Twitter, has been absolutely silent over the past 24 hours, refusing to say anything about this. All meanwhile, the Reform Party have been really going for him, absolutely hammering it. So Robert Jenrick posted in 2022, pleased to welcome a couple of people who came to the UK from Afghanistan on one of these resettlement programs, and they retweeted that saying, did Robert Jenrick know about this scandal when he was immigration minister? Richard Tice wrote an article yesterday in the Telegraph slandering the Tories for this huge data leak cover up, with Robert Jenrick's picture right on the front of that article. And now Robert Jenrick has just put out a big long statement, which I'm about to show you and read out to you. But I just wanted to show you first that the Reform Party have been straight in there to retweet it with a photograph of an article that Robert Jenrick wrote in September 2021 saying, welcoming Afghan refugees is a national project. We want to ensure long-term integration, which is a two-way street. That was Robert Jenrick's article from 2021, before he would have known about the data leak. And Robert Jenrick has finally come out and given his response. Before we get into that, if you want more news updates like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything. Anyway, let's take a look at Robert Jenrick's statement. He says, the Afghan response route has been a complete disaster. Yes, we have an obligation to keep safe those who had genuinely risked their lives for us and those we'd endangered who now face credible threats. But, as the Defence Secretary has said, most of those names on the list were people who didn't work alongside our forces, didn't serve with our forces, and as Johnny Mercer had said, the Afghan response route has gone well beyond that. It means thousands with few links to Britain have come here and will continue to come here at a cost of billions to the public. So that's very interesting to hear there, that most of the people on this list actually were not people that worked alongside our forces, because it is very important to point out that we did make a promise to Afghans who fought alongside the British that we would take care of them. Because a lot of people are saying we shouldn't be having a single person from Afghanistan coming our way, but a promise was made, and you can understand that promise may need to be delivered. You know, a lot of them lost their lives and put their lives at risk to protect British soldiers. But when you've got someone like Johnny Mercer from the military actually saying, no, most of these guys didn't actually even work alongside us, you know, that is saying that this is quite a scandal and we shouldn't be bringing all of these people to the UK, especially at a cost of 7 billion quid, which was completely hidden from us. Anyway, he goes on to say, why was the super injunction extended for 2 years so long after the event and with little regard for the consequences to public trust? Why was the vetting of prospective arrivals not tighter? The public needs answers to these questions so this never ever happens again. I first learned of the data leak and planned to resettle people after the super injunction was in place. Parliamentary privilege is not unlimited. I was bound by the Official Secrets Act. Okay, so there's Robert Jenrick there, not taking responsibility for this, but telling us there's nothing I could do. The Official Secrets Act said, you know, I couldn't really say anything about this. He then does say that he and Suella Braverman did, in private, not speaking publicly, push back against this. So he says, in internal government discussions in the short period before my resignation, the then Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, and I strongly opposed the plans to bring over 24,000 Afghan nationals. For those at genuine risk, we thought there were alternative options to pursue that better served the interests of the British people. Okay, so trying to point out that he didn't just sit on this and do nothing, arguing, I don't know for sure if it's true and how hard they fought for it, but arguing that him and Suella Braverman did do, well, it looks like he's claiming everything in their power to stop this from happening, but it fell on deaf ears. He says the Afghan response route was agreed and started after I had resigned from the government over their migration policies. The plan to do this scheme was on the list of things Suella Braverman and I were working together to oppose and change. Clearly, the last government made serious mistakes. What's not been mentioned enough is what has happened since. Thousands more have come since Labour came to power. 5,400 more have received invitation letters and will be flown over in the coming weeks, leading to the cost reaching £7 billion. However, the disastrous data leak does not mean that those who bravely serve with our armed forces should have been left at the mercy of the Taliban. It means there needs to be accountability for such a terrible error. Contrary to what some have suggested, the Afghan individuals I helped came on the ARAP scheme and had nothing to do with the subsequent ARR scheme caused by the data link. Syed was a translator for the British Council, working alongside our government to combat the Taliban. He served our country and we were right to protect him. And I think where he's making that comment to draw a distinction between the ARAP and the ARR program, I think he is indirectly referring to... Sorry, not Richard Tice's article, but this one here, where the Reform Party retweeted an old tweet of his from 2022 welcoming a couple of Afghan nationals that came under the ARAP scheme. So Robert Jenrick there, in his statement, he has essentially said, I was bound by the Official Secrets Act. I pushed back against this with Suella Braverman best I can, giving the impression there's not really much else I could do. But what he hasn't done there is explained, okay, so if he didn't sign off on this, if he wasn't the one saying we should have a super injunction, we should keep this from the public, who was it in the first place? Was it the Prime Minister that insisted this should happen? Was it civil servants, high up civil servants, that said this must happen? I don't know. It's not completely clear, but just for a bit of balance, after reading Robert Jenrick's article where he's excused himself, let's just take a look at a little snippet from that article that Richard Tice did. So that's this article here. Labour's immigration fiasco is just a continuation of Tory betrayal. So completely going for the Tory party in this article. And he starts off by saying it was revealed yesterday, when this article was put up, that following a data leak, the UK has secretly offered asylum to 24,000 Afghans at an estimated cost of £7 billion. The Ministry of Defence learnt of the leak in August 2023, when a certain Mr. Jenrick was Immigration Minister. A covert operation to bring migrants into Britain is being orchestrated by ministers who approved the project's staggering £7 billion budget, all while a super injunction prevented MPs and taxpayers from knowing the truth, with journalists facing jail if they reported this story. So clearly saying here, it was ministers who signed off on this. It is ministers who said, yes, it's okay to spend £7 billion on this. Also, I will point out, we are hearing a lot of different numbers of the full cost and how many Afghans have already arrived. But on some of the figures we're hearing, Kwasi Kwarteng, he was on Nigel Farage's show on GB News just now, and he said, I run the numbers and it works out 350 grand per person that we've brought here. That is a huge amount of money. That is a lot of money. 350 grand. What on earth are they spending all that money on? Are they buying nice fancy houses for all of these people when we've already got a housing crisis? Who knows? So Richard Tice there clearly blaming Robert Jenrick, blaming the Tories, blaming ministers very clearly, not letting him off. Robert Jenrick clearly defending himself, saying him and Suella Braverman pushed back, but not being clear about who actually made the big decisions, who was responsible. And also, Robert Jenrick pointed his finger at the Labour Party. What part of the statement was that in? I think the second part. Yeah, where he says 5,400 more have received invitation letters since Labour came to power and will be flown over in the coming weeks. So, pointing the finger at the Labour Party, but I suppose you could say, well, all they are doing is continuing with the status quo that you as the Tories started and signed off on. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that Robert Jenrick is to blame for this, or do you think he has successfully excused himself with that tweet he's just put up? I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time.